The next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of December 14th, 2020 board meeting. Do I have a motion? Mr. Lovelace?
I'd like to move that we approve the minutes of the December 14th, 2020 board meeting.
Okay, is there a second? There's a second. Thank you, Ms. Gardner. We got a second. So any discussion on the minutes?
I do.
Ms. Gardner?
I move that we make the following changes to the December 14th minutes. Under the action agenda, so number one, under the action agenda section, the motions are not in the correct order. The second sentence should be the first, and the word amended, removed to state a motion was passed to give the superintendent the ability, should come first, and then Dr. Melton's recommendation to the return to distance learning should follow. That's the first amendment. The second amendment is under the discussion agenda section regarding policy BDE. The section starting with during the discussion should be removed. And then in the third thing that I found was under the record of voting section, item number 1 should read, I move to defer items, not amend items.
Okay, I'm not sure I totally got it all down.
I couldn't hear hardly
Yeah,
anything she was saying.
Can you take that off? I hate to tell you
Yeah.
that about mask. I'm sorry.
And I do have these to, if anybody wants to read them, but I have them, I have one copy.
Okay, thank you.
So under the action agenda, under the section with the motions, they're not in the correct order.
Under action.
We actually, we did that backwards. I mean, we did it different than what's listed, and it's a small thing. The order might not matter that much, but I feel like it should be changed.
So, excuse me, there's no fact change in it, it's just the order. Okay.
Yeah, it's
thank you.
just written. And it does say amended.
An amended motion.
yeah.
Okay,
And it, yeah,
all right.
okay.
And then you had one under the
Right,
discussion.
okay. And then under discussion items section regarding policy B, I can tell you why, or I thought I was just making the motion, so. A discussion agenda section regarding policy BDE, the section starting with during the discussion. So that whole part about during the discussion should be removed.
Because you
Well-
just don't say everything anybody said, then
Well,
you
do
should
we
say.
want to discuss it now, or am I just making the motion?
Okay, well, we better have a second.
Yeah, and then the third, that's what I said, we'll go back and
putting them all
discuss it.
together,
I'm
though.
putting
Yeah,
them
I got
together. And under the record of voting, section number 1 should read, I move to defer, not amend. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Did you find that one?
No, I'm not on that one. Is that on page 2?
Record of voting? Mine's on my computer, sorry.
Oh, okay, record of voting. The first one? I just
Yeah.
need to be sure the board knows what we're saying, where everything is.
Under the minutes, yeah.
All right, I have a second. That was all of them. Are you seconding it, Mr. Lovelace? So we can discuss it? Okay, can't discuss it unless it's second.
Yeah.
I'm not putting words in your mouth. You want a second? Okay. All right, Ms. Gardner, you want to explain the need to do that?
So I don't think there's much to say about the first and the third point. They just, to me, their wordings has to be more specific to say defer. The word amended should be taken out of both of those. And the order of the action may not matter, but it might in the future if we're ever questioning what we did. But the second one is the one that I wanted to discuss. We don't generally ever, and if you look at the history of minutes, and even in these minutes, we rarely put down the things we've discussed in a meeting. And so unless we're going to start doing it for all, and we amend we amend the current policy to, or not the policy, but the current minutes to include the other discussions, we should remove that one.
So if I'm hearing you right, in the past, precedent, the 2 years you've been on board, they don't say that Miss So-and-so said this and Miss So-and-so, and so if you do it for one,
We have to do it for all.
You have to do it
and
for all, and you
including
check
these
the
minutes,
scoop.
they would be incomplete here
got
too,
you.
so.
Mr. Lovelace?
I think Robert's Rules of Order actually addresses that, and you can either do it topically, or you can do it, the other way is to do it all-inclusive, but you don't mix the two, so.
Ms. White?
That's Mr. Lovelace. Mr. Lovelace is correct on
Okay,
that.
so for you new people, okay, I think everybody else is understanding. you do the minutes one way or the other. If you're going, you can totally, and it's all right to say that Ms. Hammond said, Ms. Gardner said, and here they have Ms. Hines said, but you have to say what we all said. Or are we gonna do, because in the past, they've just been descriptive. Mr. White, you and I have seen the most of them. You know, we haven't always been this much
I mean, I would
verbiage.
defer to.
Well, yeah, I'm glad Ms. White's here. She's here to keep
Well,
us.
and I will say that most.
Is there a better, yeah, how do most
Well,
districts do
most
it?
boards don't get into
No.
all of the
He said,
detail
she said.
that Ms. Hammond said and then Ms. Gardner said and so forth. It's more just, there was a discussion related
To-
to
right.
whatever the topic was.
It's very general.
And-
usually.
right, very
And then
general.
the votes show the motions in word for word.
Exactly. That's
Okay.
how most boards do it.
Okay, so let's just vote whether we want to change these changes that Ms. Gardner has brought up
I have an amendment
to
to
Ms.
the
Gardner.
amendment.
See, y'all always
I
like to
believe
do
under
that.
the discussion agenda, it says a motion was made to table agenda items 18, 19. I believe that the motion was to defer.
Because table means isn't that right, Ms. White? If you table them, they're
Table
gone
will
away.
stop it.
That, yeah.
Yeah.
Have
And
to
this,
bring
and
it
this
back
says
up.
table?
It says table.
Wow.
And I believe it
Say
was
defer.
to defer.
Well, we need to change that for sure.
It should say to it, it
'Cause
should
remember, we
say
was putting them off.
postpone to a time certain, I believe is the way that works. So,
Right, or to defer until the meeting
yeah,
on.
yeah.
Until the next
It should have a definitive time.
Well,
But
yeah,
did it?
I'm looking for,
Oh, okay, so that amendment just means we're gonna add it to her things. I mean, it'll all be, it won't be one.
Correct.
Okay. All those in favor of Ms.
I need a
Huddles?
second if we're going to do it.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
I second
you
that.
second it. Okay. Do we need to discuss this? I think it's pretty, all
What-
those in
I'm-
favor
I'm
of
getting
Ms.
lost in what we're voting on. What's the
Okay,
vote
we'll
right
go
now?
over again. I told you when y'all do these amendments to the amendment. Okay, Ms. Gardner's amendment is about three things she was saying that are not right in the minutes, okay? And then Ms. Huddles she found another thing that should be changed, where we said table, and it should say defer.
Okay, just for clarification, where are we on the style point that Andrea White mentioned? We gonna leave it at the style,
Do we-
write them today?
Well, should we require a motion to do it this new way, if you like it, if you like all these words, or keep doing it like we've done it? I wouldn't think we need a motion if we're gonna continue like we've done it.
I would say just continue the way we do it unless somebody wants to show us a sample. It's too confusing to listen to this
It
from
is.
Ask and.
I
it's
agree
just-
with you, Mr. White.
I'm not even sure what I'm voting on, to be honest with you, but if there's
Well, I think what you're
corrections.
doing is
Miss-
voting just to have the information in the minutes more general, that there was a discussion about the reentry plan, right? Instead of Mr. White said so-and-so about the reentry plan, and Ms. Gardner said so-and-so. So you're going back to how you used to do it. That's what I'm understanding you
Yeah.
saying, that you used to do it with the more general
Yeah.
statement, but for some reason, these minutes were more specific as to one discussion item.
Yeah, and it has just one or two people quote what they
Right.
said, and everybody said a lot of different things.
Right.
That would not be fair.
So I think what the intent of Ms. Gardner's motion, or at least that part of it, is to delete from the minutes the references to what was said by specific people, right? So
And then
that's what
correct
we're-
in the other. Okay.
Right, and then going forward, that it would be, you wouldn't have that anymore. You wouldn't have this person said this person said that.
Thank you. But we still have to get your amendment to the motions. Okay. So let's all those in favor of Ms. Huddle's amendment to change the wording. Mine is yay. Is it 7? Ms. Huddle? All right, and opposed, none. Okay, then we'll go back to Ms. Gardner's amendment,
Correct.
okay? And do you want to restate it for Mr. White, or you got it, Mr. White? You want her to restate the original since it's gotten very confusing?
If you can do it quickly.
If you can go really fast.
Okay, so under the action agenda section, the motions are in the opposite order. They just need to be switched, and the word amended needs to be removed, because we didn't amend anything. We deferred, or it can just be removed. It should state, a motion was passed to give the superintendent the ability, is what it should say. I have that written here. And then, of course, the discussion agenda, we talked about that with Ms. White. And then the third thing is, under the record of voting section, item number 1 should read, I move to defer items, not mend items. It says, let me find It says, I move to amend items 18 through 21 on the it should say, I move to defer items 18 to 21 on the discussion agenda to another meeting.
Well, Ms. Gardner, since you're the secretary and you were very efficient, I'm gonna vote for this. All those,
And I have
all
it
those
here.
in favor of her motion, please raise your hand. And it's 7 to, thank you. All right, keep Ms. Hammond straight here. Now,
We have to vote to action.
public participation, and I'm sorry, I hope, we had students and we put you first, and I'm sure they had to go home and study, but I hope not.
Dan, we have to vote to approve it. We have to now vote
Oh, you mean we haven't done that in all this time?
as amended.
As amended.
Okay,
As amended.
as amended, let's go back to approving the minutes of December 14th, 2020, as amended. Thank you. All right, all those in favor? 7 and 0. Okay, Ms. White, I really am going to public participation. I'm sorry, guys, I've tried to get to you. If I pronounce the name wrong, please forgive me. I have something I have to read. The board welcomes and encourages public participation. We respectfully ask that you adhere to the procedures and the decorum provided in Board Policy BEDH, public participation at meetings. Your comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Questions asked during public participation will be handled in accordance with Board Policy BEDH. And we will, do I need to show what your little ding sounds like, or is it a buzzer, or you'll put the,
I will.
he'll put you a yellow card up when you have, what, 1 minute left? Okay. This is it Veronica Shayer? Thank you. What a pretty name, and I said it wrong. Veronique.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's a unique name, Veronique.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming.
Yes, I have just one question. So does it start when I talk? Okay, it starts now. Okay. My name is Veronique, and I'm a senior at Dutch Fork High School. And I'm actually advocating against going back 5 days a week. On January 15th, during my first block class, I was sent home from school saying that I had a close contact with someone who had COVID. This close contact had happened on January 8th, the week before. So it had taken the district an entire week to get the test results and the information back to me. And not only that, the information was incorrect. I had not been a close contact. The people in my class, or the teacher of that classroom, had sent the wrong seating chart to the nurse's office, so they had sent the wrong people home. And I was the only person sent home when 2 or 3 other individuals were not sent home a week later. So that caused a potential spread of COVID-19 in our class. Not only is this bad miscommunication, this is bad contact tracing within the district. This makes contact tracing also unreliable and inefficient, and this can cause more unknown cases to occur. In order to prevent the spread of COVID-19 in classrooms, we must have better procedures implemented within classrooms and within the district. We need better social distancing guidelines, and we also need more teachers and students to wear masks. Teachers sometimes do not wear masks, and it frustrates me very much because I do everything I can to wear my mask at all times. We also need less in-person contact. In order to keep ourselves from being exposed to the COVID-19 virus, we must social distance and wear masks. And we also need more time to do that contact tracing if it's going to take a whole entire week. I understand that these decisions to go back to school 5 days or 4 days or hybrid are really difficult for the board, as they have a lot of different opinions from different people coming towards you. But I understand that if we do need to go 4 or 5 days a week, I think you should open an option for those virtual learning days for students who are virtually present who do not feel safe going to school, as per me. I'm a straight-A student. I go to school every single day whenever I can, and I know that if I had the option to be virtually present, I would, because there are some days that I do not feel safe going to school. I also believe that you should allow all clubs to meet if you're going back 4 to 5 days a week, because I'm missing a lot of opportunities for scholarships and experience when it comes to musical theater, which is my major in college. All students should have equal opportunities, just as well as sports, clubs, and performing arts such as band, orchestra, theater, and choir, which I am a part of as well. Seniors have basically lost their entire senior year. So, I just wish that you would make good decisions for not only us, but for the entire district, and that you should reincorporate these clubs and activities for our sake. Once again, I do not advocate for 5 days a week, but I do advocate for the arts and for the presence of opportunities for virtually present for all students in District 5. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you're going to be a success
Thank you.
in your office. Abigail, is it Shirey? Did I say it right? Abigail? I know that part's right. Abigail? I think she went home. Yeah, she left. Oh, okay. We're sorry, Abigail. Hannah Forrester? Hannah? You know what? Abigail's probably an A student and she went home to study.
It starts when I talk. Okay. Good evening. My name is Hannah Forster, and I'm a student at Chapin High School. I'm concerned about how this board is dealing with the crisis that our school is facing. I think that the action needs to be taken by the board to make sure that our students are safe. I really do appreciate all the work that is being done by the teachers, staff, and the district officials, but the way that some of this is being handled is very unacceptable. Students are packed into classrooms and are overwhelmed with work. The 4-day face-to-face schedule gives students the necessary time to catch up on schoolwork and gives our hardworking staff a day to deep clean our schools. Our COVID cases at Chapin High School are already high and will most likely increase due to the extra day of exposure. Students are staying home when they should be at school because they do not feel safe. This is a reflection on This is a reflection on some of the actions this board and district have made. The fact that these kids are trying to be safe but are being punished by staying home is not acceptable. Another model needs to be created to help with some of these students' concerns. Just to clarify what has been suggested here tonight, students aren't spread 6 feet. We are packed into classrooms at most 3 to 5 feet apart in most classrooms. I understand that there are laws affecting students' attendance, but a change needs to be made. As a person with a heart condition that still attends face-to-face school, I know what it's like to be scared of something that could easily affect me. Even though online school is offered, it doesn't offer some of the classes that I take. I'm asking you to please keep it safe as possible and not issue our schools to go back 5 days a week. I appreciate you guys listening. Thank you.
Thank you. Eric Gardner? Mr. Gardner, you came early, so you're very persistent. I'm glad you didn't leave.
Thank you. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Dr. Melton. I do have data to back up all my comments here if you want to see it. The needs of our students and the quality of our education has definitely been impacted by COVID-19. Yesterday, the U.S. surpassed 25 million confirmed cases. There's a new strain that researchers are saying is 70% more contagious and less discriminatory between children and adults. That was not known in November when the cutoff for changing our minds occurred. The rate of positive children cases in the U.S. almost doubled between December 17th and January 14th, and more children are testing positive than ever before. South Carolina pediatricians have confirmed similar trends here in the Palmetto State. On January 14th, DHEC reported that due to the widespread and staggering rates of positive cases, they're moving to containment, or moving from containment to mitigation because they're no longer able to keep up with it. I do believe that the school district relied on DHEC's reporting to help, which you can no longer count on. Both DHEC and CDC are placing even stronger emphasis on wearing face masks, avoiding large gatherings, and practicing social distancing. It's also noteworthy that the CDC's face-to-face learning model that has limited mixing, it includes wearing a face mask and social distancing, and that's labeled as a high-risk model. When it comes to data, it's only useful when it can be trusted. We use the district's website for the COVID dashboard. If there's other data that should feed into that, we should be able to see it. With only 1 week prior to going to our 5-day model, we continue to see high rates of positive cases in the state and in our region. Districts in our state, similar to ours, seeing similar rates, thank you for pointing me to the Charleston district, are providing options like the third middle ground. And while I'm not an attorney, we might consider South Carolina Supreme Court's ruling to define minimally adequate education, where it also included safe facilities. We should also consider the theory of premises liability in any decision the board makes, and how that might affect or limit a parent's right to make decisions on the safety of their students. In closing, I would ask that you consider the District 5 community petition that is making its way. It already has 350 signatures in just 48 hours that is requesting the board and Dr. Melton to allow live streaming classes to continue and to count towards attendance as virtually present, much like they already do when students are quarantined. Should you disapprove that, I would ask the board to consider taking an action similar to what has been adopted in Charleston, where attendance from students following the virtual attendance model, leveraging remote learning tools such as Google Classroom, where all classwork is completed in a timely manner, is considered as an excused absence. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Mr. Drew Walker.
I'm way back here.
We don't mind waiting on you. You had to wait on us.
It's okay, I'm very fast. Hi, my name is Drew Walker, and every day I have the pleasure of coming to work right here in this building. And I'm actually really glad that the idea of a third option has already come up, because that is actually the first point I want to speak to. I can only give you a snapshot of my classroom. I cannot offer those for anyone else's room. I encourage you to reach out to my fellow teachers to get those numbers. This is just 3 of my classes. In one of them, with a roster of 17 students, I currently have 5 that are attending in person. Those other ones are not quarantined. They are not 5 students. They are choosing not to attend. They do not feel safe. They are not in the room. Another class has 14 on its roll, and 4 are attending in person. And finally, one that has 12 on its roll, and 2 of them are attending in person. They are not quarantined. They are not 5. They are just not there. They are live streamed in. I am teaching 2 different models, and a majority of those students are not in the room with me, which means that the majority of my attention goes to students that are not even there. So from the statistics in my room, I have to come to the belief that this board is not speaking for the majority, it is speaking for the loudest. And it is speaking for people who are so hyped up on their Facebook pages that you almost can't ignore them. And the people that do know the reality are scared to reach out, because when they do, they get emails like one that came to light from a board member last week, which said that it is, quote, our turn. That is drawing a dividing line. And now we are being made to feel like enemies. I freaking love this place. 2 years ago, I had the honor of serving as this school's Teacher of the Year. I love it. The other teachers in this building are my best friends. And what you do not see is the mental health toll that this is taking on them. You do not see the struggle that they go home to with their families. You do not see them trying to juggle multiple methods of teaching at a time. You do not see any of that. And if one of my students or one of my friends dies, that is on you. If one of my friends chooses to leave this profession that they love, and trust me, a lot of them will, that is also on you. And they are good teachers, and you are going to watch them walk out. You don't hear from us as much as you do the louder contingent, because we don't have time to post about it on social media. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walker. Rosie Robinson. I like your topic, Celebrate Irmo High School.
Yes, ma'am.
That's a good one.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Dr. Melton and the other board members. My name is Rosie Robinson. I'm a loud Band of Irmo mom, a PTSO board member, and an SIC member. I am a proud mother of 3 children, Wyatt, Lakin, and Knox. Wyatt is a recent IRMO grad pursuing an aerospace engineering degree from Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. Lakin is a junior IB student here at IRMO in the top 3% of her class. And Knox is a freshman at IRMO in all honors classes. I'm not here tonight to talk about my children's success. I am here tonight to talk about how their success has been enabled by attending the school here in Lexington Richland 5. Their story starts at the wonderful Nursery Road Elementary, then Crossroads, then IRMO Middle, and lastly at the outstanding IRMO High School, International School for the Arts. My husband and I moved to this community for IRMO High School. Let me tell you about some great things happening here. In 2021-2022 school year, IRMO High is becoming the final addition to the Escalorius program. This is Escalorius. Will exist in the 9th and 10th grades, and the goal is to support and grow the IB diploma and career-related programs by providing students a 4-year, globally minded focus in their daily learning. The artwork of Savon Plains, an 11th grader, was selected at District 5 secondary level winner of the Magnet Schools of America poster contest. And here in this room tonight, Alice Blocker, an 11th grader, has been named a semifinalist for the 2021 United States Senate Youth Program Scholarship by the South Carolina Department of Education. Also, he is serving as Vice President of the Young Voices USA Senate. I would like to thank you, this body, for providing IRMO High School with the resources it needs to enable students like my children to succeed. Thank you.
Thank you. Jessica, is it Bauer? Yes. Did I say it right?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. During my 13 years teaching in District 5, I've been able to serve as a professional development facilitator, department head, school level teacher of the year, and district honor roll teacher, and that has given me the chance to build relationships with teachers from across the district. Tonight, I am here for them. We have incredible teachers, but I am worried about them. Teachers are tired and hurting. Some may think that teachers' concerns right now are just about being safe from getting COVID, and while that is valid, that's not why I'm worried, and it is not why our teachers are struggling. Our jobs have changed. Instructional strategies we love that we know are effective for kids can't be used because we have to prioritize keeping students in assigned seats for contact tracing and maintaining whatever social distance we can manage. To replace these, we must read and search and create new things to try. If we sit by and work with the student, we have to track time because we need to know how long we were close in case we get a call from the nurse or get our own positive test. But it's more than just modifying our instruction. Our classes are revolving doors of students out on quarantine. Planning time is lost because we don't have enough subs. Instead of using class change to greet our students at the door, we clean desks and reset materials in Google Meets for quarantined or isolated students who are joining from home. All of this is exhausting and it weighs on teachers' hearts in a way that I cannot explain. Our administrators and support staffs are taking on extra work to try to save teachers, and I do not have words to express how thankful I am for that. But they're getting burned out too. We will all face additional challenges with the loss of our current Wednesday schedule, which means a loss of protected planning, of enrichment time to meet with kids on isolation and quarantine, of the only day when we can see our students' full faces and when they can see our smiles. We are doing everything we can to serve our kids, but we are sacrificing ourselves to make it happen. We smile and force ourselves to keep going, but we are struggling. Please do not mistake our ability to hide that as evidence that we are fine. And please do not take advantage of how much we are willing to give because we care for our students. We are facing a crisis right now, but it is momentary. And when this pandemic passes, we will still need teachers to fill our classrooms. I love District 5, and I want its future to be filled with teachers who love and are good at what they do. But I am afraid that the direction we are heading right now is going to cost us that future. I would ask you to consider the long term rather than making decisions to appease a few in the moment. Because leadership isn't about giving people what they want or getting what you want. It's about doing what's right even when it is hard. Please listen to teachers and school staff. Consider their mental health and well-being too. Let them make decisions and support them. They're the ones who know what we have and who know how we can keep it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah Ostergaard. Welcome.
Good evening. I stand before you a voter, a homeowner, a teacher, a parent. My name is Sarah Ostergaard, and I have emailed each of you many times, so I wanted to put a name with a face. I had different remarks planned, but on the way here I changed them. I learned something that was mentioned earlier. I'm disappointed in those of you who removed reentry from the agenda. For clarity, let me repeat that. I'm disappointed in those of you who had reentry removed from the agenda. And I thank those of you who insisted on adding it back. Thank you for doing the right thing. These are difficult times, and you've inherited a #1 district. Let's keep it that way. I have 2 concerns I bring before you tonight. One is narrow focused on my need as a parent, and the other is macro oriented. The narrow issue is now moot. I need virtual Wednesdays for my daughter. I really need hybrid for my daughter. I've emailed you my reasons, and I'm not going to state them again. Overall, however, my second issue, my macro-oriented issue, as a voter, homeowner, teacher, and parent, I need my board members to be kind community leaders. I need you to stop posting divisive messages and comments on social media. I need you to realize that you were elected to represent all voices in School District 5 and be responsive to community needs. I am relying on you to be long-term policymakers, to keep our vision on maintaining our status. I want my daughter to have teachers like Mr. Walker because my son has had teachers, excellent teachers here at Irmo High School and Irmo Middle School, and I need them to stay. Sadly, people seem to forget that this community is a closed ecosystem, bearing the brunt of both the best and the worst that crises reveal about people's human nature. Once this has passed, and I assure you that it will, we all will have memories of what has happened during this crisis. I know the legacy that I'm leaving for my students and my children, and I ask you to consider yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Sheena Wilson. Sheena. Welcome.
I'm addressing the board on behalf of many concerned citizens and district constituents to discuss reentry, instructional delivery models, and school attendance requirements in the light of the COVID-19 pandemic. I will not recite the data metrics for this COVID-19 disease in the interest of time. We understand that the board and district management have their own metrics adopted by board vote guiding reentry decisions. With respect, these are different than the CDC guidelines for reentry, which are based on scientific and medical community consensus. Many parents made decisions about their Many parents made decisions about their children's educational pathway based on the understanding that CDC guidelines would be the basis for decision-making. The seeming refusal to acknowledge the CDC-backed impact of the documented rise in COVID-19 cases in our community and within every school in District 5 constitutes a direct threat to community safety. Reasonable accommodations are not being allowed by the board decisions. This is the heart of my proposal. My proposal is simple and would seem to accommodate families with different concerns and situations. Teachers would live stream their classes through technology they already have available, with assignments and notes placed in Google Classrooms. Students can interact, ask questions via email for teachers to answer at a later time or as they may choose. Students attending class virtually would be recorded as virtually attending. This proposal would alleviate some of the burden for teachers, as this is not teaching in two separate models, and would give parents and students the options they demand for their safety. This proposal is not perfect, but it is a proposal of compromise. Without these accommodations, the safety for our teachers, staff, students, and community are being tossed out the door. This is a direct quote from the secretary of the board to a parent in January. You know they won't be holding kids accountable for absences this year. So your choice as a parent is to allow your child to miss 2 days a week to stay virtual if you feel that is best. But many have not had the option they want, so now it's their turn. This is an example of the mixed messaging and condescending attitude when disseminating information throughout our community. But it acknowledges that parents have the right to withhold their children from school in light of their concerns for family and community safety. I am only asking that we extend the option to participate in their education to these children as we already do with students under quarantine. This has been a difficult time for our entire community, and in the spirit of compassionate understanding of our neighbors, I ask that the diversity of concern, need, and opinion of the matter be accommodated in a situation which is truly outside of normal operating procedures for the entire community. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Sugar. That's a sweet name.
That's usually what I say.
I kept thinking, I hope I said that right, but it spelled just like sugar.
You're right.
Thank you.
Good evening. I also teach here, and I would like to second the comments of my colleague Drew Walker and also Sarah Ostergaard. Retaining teachers is going to be a challenge under the face-to-face model. I have taught in multiple districts in South Carolina. I've taught in the DC region. I'm from Oregon originally, and through school districts that are frankly rougher than this one, with bomb threats, gun threats, violence like I've never seen here. I have never seen and experienced so many teachers across schools sharing job opportunities, not just at other districts, but outside the field of education. I have never seen it. And the common thread is face-to-face. My situation, if you come by my room, mine is pretty good and I'm lucky. I'm not really speaking for myself on that at the moment. But the concerns are severe, and you don't want to be the school district where, as was the case in the first place I taught, in my third year of teaching at the age of 25, I was department chair because I was the senior member of the department. My third year of teaching and my third year in that building. That was not here. But when teachers leave like that, that is what happens. It's a tough place you find yourself in. But a start might be, Molly Spearman tried to get teachers higher priority for vaccinations. A public statement from you, not piecemeal one at a time in emails or on your individual social media accounts, but as a unit, endorsing, taking the unusual step of endorsing what she wanted to do but did not have the political capital to do, giving her that opportunity and maybe that momentum and calling on like-minded boards around the state to do the same, give us a chance to survive this model that you are putting into place. That might do something about teacher retainment in future years. I'm not using a crystal ball here, but I have never, ever seen anything like this, and I've taught some tough places. So my best to you, and thank you for all you do. But a public statement to that effect, if you want to be old-fashioned, write a letter to the editor, sorry, journalism majors, or grab somebody's phone, all of you stand behind it, and call on the governor and the legislature and the authorities that matter and ask them to make teachers a higher priority. If face-to-face matters to the leaders in this state, that's what they should do. Thank you very much, all.
Thank you. Is it Raina Floyd or Rena? Did I say it right?
Rena like a reindeer.
Oh, like a
Correct the first
reindeer.
time.
Y'all have such nice names, John.
Thank you, Sam. Good evening. I signed my oldest up for 5 for the sake of consistency in my house, as my twins were also going to be in 5. I did so planning to transition him back to Irmo Middle at the semester. At that time, parents were assured that health official guidelines and recommendations would be followed, and as a district, we would switch models as needed. In December, I shared my concerns about sending him back on February 1st, given the positive case numbers, as well as quarantine numbers. Post-winter break numbers are just as high and higher in some schools. Hybrid allows half the number of students to be present on any given day, in which turn allows for physical distancing that is simply impossible with 20-plus students in a room. The physical distancing would reduce the number of students needed to quarantine due to close contact. More physical distance equals less likelihood of close contact. Reducing the number of close contact quarantines will also reduce the number of teachers who are being pulled to cover the classes of teachers who are quarantining. This is especially important in the elementary school setting where interventionists and therapists are not able to meet with their pull-out groups due to covering classes. If for some reason the board cannot see the many benefits of a return to hybrid, I implore you to not return to 5 days. The return to 4 days has already contributed to a spike in positive cases and quarantine numbers, but taking away Wednesday as a virtual day would prove taxing to D5 staff, especially our nurses and custodial staff. When the IMS football team had to end their season early due to 2 positive cases, I was informed on a Friday night that my son was exposed on Wednesday. In a conversation with another parent recently, it was shared that she learned of close contact and the need to quarantine 8 days later because of the backlog due to lack of time. Taking away the virtual Wednesday is going to push our nurses to the breaking point. Custodial staff are currently using Wednesday to deep clean rooms in which there have been positive cases. It is not possible for them to do so when school is in session, and not adhering to their current deep clean practices may lead to more positive cases. My last but certainly not least of my concerns in all of this is our teachers. My oldest son has 4 more years in the district, but my twins have 11 more years. I fear that our teachers are at the breaking point, and we are going to see a mass exodus of highly qualified teachers. As highly ranked as D5 is in the state, we already have a difficult time getting highly qualified teachers due to the current teacher shortage in the state. Getting and keeping great teachers requires support, and that ultimately begins with you, the board and superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Goodman. Debbie, you know your way around this place, don't you? You and I with our kids here.
Yes, I do. Many times.
That's right.
Actually, as I said, I'm Debbie Goodman. I am here on behalf of another teacher. She could not be here tonight because she's quarantined, so I'm reading this for her. She says, everyone keeps saying face-to-face. 5 days is normal, but there's nothing normal about this year. Virtual Wednesday is the one day students can see their teacher and classmates' faces. It's the one day they can create the personal connections that only a smile can give. We say we want to go back to normal, but masks 7 hours a day, plexiglass shields, not traveling to related area classes or the cafeteria isn't normal. We will not have normal this year, and it's time to stop saying we will. Let's choose a new normal. Keep the virtual Wednesday as a chance for connections to be made with facial features we can't see when we're masked. Keep the planning time for teachers so we can be prepared for the in and out disruption that quarantine is causing students and teachers. Keep the deep cleaning of our classrooms. Before COVID, the custodians took advantage of time classes were away from their classrooms at lunch, recess, etc., to clean and sanitize, but now we're always in our rooms. They don't have that empty classroom time anymore. We need to adjust what is normal. Thanks to our students and school staff for adjusting and living within this new normal. We need to let our students know that this isn't forever, it's for now. It's important we all know that when the pandemic is under control, teachers will help students fill the gaps. Every child, every person throughout the entire world is experiencing this. It's not unique to District 5. We are all in this together. Thank you to the board for being willing to listen. I would have come myself, but I'm quarantined right now due to a close contact at school. Like I said, nothing about this year is normal.
Thank you, Ms. Dillon. Barb Waltman.
Good evening. Tonight I wanted to tell you that Irmo High School International School for the Arts has recently received a School Garden and Education Instruction Assistance Program Award from the South Carolina Department of Education and the South Carolina Farm to School Program. This application was submitted by Christine Hampton and is supported by several special education teachers and Fay Golding in the cafeteria. The award will provide a 4-foot by 16-foot raised bed garden and soil for this 2-year program. There will be lesson plans to accompany the project and coordination with the cafeteria to make the connection between the foods being harvested in the garden and those being served in the cafeteria. Harbison West, another school in the Irmo cluster, has also been named as an award-winning school in this program. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not surprised at those accolades for this fine school. Leslie Stiles.
Good evening. It's hard to smile with this on, and I hope I'm shivering because it's cold in the back and that I don't have COVID. I just wanted to ask a few questions. I know you guys can't answer me right now, but I am curious why the board would consider passing a motion on a policy change without going through the normal 2 readings. I would like to know why the vote that was offered tonight for public viewing and live streaming of the officer meetings was not approved. We all want more transparency, and I believe some of the board members ran on transparency, so that's what the public is asking for, is more information, not less. I'm also curious why we would consider paying $20,000 to an audit firm when we have received clean audits. What are we looking for? If there's something we need to be aware of as public taxpayers, I would like to know what that is, and I'm sure I'm joined by many others. I'd also like to know why District 5 has not created a COVID leave policy for our teachers yet. Surrounding districts did this in December and opted to fund it out of their budget until public legislation came through. And here it is, January 25th, and some of these teachers have had to take personal days when they're out on quarantine. And last, I am tired of the rhetoric that this is a new normal and going back 5 days is going to fix everything, because it's not. I happen to have elementary school teachers, and I love my elementary school. But our kids are not getting what they need this year. My child has 2 teachers who have both been quarantined 2 times in the last 3 weeks. So she is at school with a sub, and she is watching her teachers live stream lessons from home. And I called today and asked for permission for her to stay home and watch the lessons rather than come to school, and I was told that would be an unexcused absence. So she can go to a German-infested school and sit there and watch her teachers stream from home, not missing anything. And my principal is amazing, and I was told that that was protocol. So I believe that this is a mixed message, because I heard Dr. Harris say that parents could contact the school with their situation and ask for approval through a principal, and I think I heard Dr. Melton say the same. I don't think that message is consistent or clear, and I think that's part of the reason why this middle group of parents is frustrated. And I think we would like answers for that. And also, I guess I just want to know, is this counting of absences consistent through all grades, through all schools, with all principals? Do they all get the same message? And finally, I would like to give a major shout out to the students who stood up and spoke tonight, even though they were advised by a board member that public participation from students was discouraged. So for all of you guys who are brave, thank you very much. And I applaud all of you. Thank you for your time.
Ms. Stiles, I would tell you on item 15, Dr. Melton did have that on our agenda about the COVID-related sick leave. That will be tonight. Well, Doctor, we waited till Dr. Melton brought it up to us, and we appreciate her leadership. Stacy Price.
Hello. So, a couple things. As a loud person on social media, as some would say, we actually all agree that there should be a third option. I signed that petition, Eric. So I am a huge advocate for 5 days. That's for my child. But everybody should have their own option, and I agree. My niece wants to be hybrid, would prefer to have 4 days. It's all up to personal preference, and I think that we should have that. So we all agree, both sides, the 5 days, 5 to 5, or 5 days, advocates want you guys to have that option as well. Most of us, I can't speak for everybody. The only thing that I would say is the lack of consistency between schools. I think it's said a couple times. I know as I'm hearing several elementary schools don't get to go to related arts. Some do. They're going to PE. Why can't all schools go to PE? So there is not a consistency among elementary school level, and I'm speaking that because that's my child. There's one school that they are allowed to go to PE. The other two elementary schools in the Chapin cluster, I'm not speaking for Irma, are not. They stay in their classroom for everything. So there's no consistency, and I think it should be consistent among schools. I realize that there's different things at different schools, but, and then the dashboard. Thank you for the dashboard, but it's not updated enough and often enough. Their Lexington 1 updates theirs every day by noon. You guys closed schools, and I am confident that there was a reason that you did, but it didn't show on the dashboard. So we have to rely on you, which is fine, and you guys are the experts, but what we're seeing on the dashboard is not what you're seeing and why, when schools get closed. So I appreciate it, but can we get more consistently updated numbers? Is it possible? Then for the live streaming, so currently my daughter just went back to school, was quarantined for 2 weeks. I had COVID, my husband had COVID, she had COVID. So live streaming happened every day, and it worked. Her teacher was not in front of her. Her teacher didn't ask questions. Thankfully, I'm home there with her, so it's a little bit different. But live streaming can happen. If they're more than likely, these teachers are doing it for some quarantine students, so why can't they do it for ones that choose to stay out? Because it was my understanding that there was a seat time waiver for those that didn't want to be there, but they were still attending class. So I'm just asking for those that want this third option. I know that it could be a logistical nightmare. I'm not an expert at it, but can we try to do something to maybe appease those students and parents? Thank you.
Thank you. Is Lisa is it Mayleth or Mayleth?
Yes, I answered all.
Mayleth, thank you.
Yes, I answered everything. I inherited that name. I didn't,
Welcome.
I married into it, I should say. Listen, I am here as a teacher
And let me just give you a little snippet of my day this afternoon, right before I was coming here to speak to you. 3 of my students were pulled out, asked to take their backpacks, and went to the nurse. They went home. And the rest of the kids stood there and looked and thought, am I next, right? So it was a little bit fearful for them. Let me also, I'm here as a parent. I have a child that's a senior. She is thriving in hybrid. She is just got accepted to her #1 school. She's going, she got accepted to Georgetown. This is amazing. It's amazing. It's a great year for her. So even though it's not her best senior year, it's a good year. I'm also here as a community member. I've lived in Chapin for 20 years, and I've been part of that community. We moved to Chapin for the schools. So thank you for providing that for my daughter. It's been awesome. Sorry, I'm a little out of breath. Last thing I'm here as a human being, and I'm a teacher, but a human being. I, last March, lost my father-in-law to COVID. We buried him in June. In August, I went to my doctor and found out that I have 2/3 of the capacity to breathe as a healthy human being. And so I turned to the district and was allowed to teach virtually. Thank you for that, and that's why I'm still in teaching. I appreciate that. I have been in a very weird situation where I'm teaching students in a classroom. I'm teaching them virtually, so I'm teaching them both. It's been great. It's been successful. I teach 2 different classes. One is the fundamentals of computing, and that's to freshmen. The first lesson that we give the freshmen in the first 2 weeks is about cyberbullying. And so I was really amazed by my fellow teachers when they said that you don't want to go and stand up in front of people at the board meeting because then you become a target of people coming at you. And it's online. Unfortunately, I don't go online a lot. I keep my space very small, so I'm not there. But I'm amazed that we can get our students to understand cyberbullying, and they don't cyberbully, and there's an app in the school to report cyberbullying. I see the sign up here that jackets stand up to bullying. And so I really need the community to come together and stop. As a community, we can come up with solutions that we're talking about. As a community, a teacher community, the people in the community, the students in the community, we can come up with a solution. We have a lot of smart people in this community, and we know how to do solutions. And thank you.
Kim Murphy.
Good evening. Kim Murphy. My email address is movingmountainskwm@gmail.com. First, it appears that you are to vote on 2 policies in regards to virtual school. I'm not yet weighing in on the validity of the programs, but I have not seen a cost to them. It seems that before you approve the policies, that information and more about the program should be reviewed. Next, I have to say that in regard to rezoning, I have never, in my years of involvement in District 5, seen reports from consultants that are so full of misinformation and errors. The bulk of you are new, and this is new to you, but you've got to be able to count on receiving accurate information to make educated and responsible decisions. This does not come close. I know that both the board and the administration have been overwhelmed because of COVID, but the numbers are all over the place, and they don't add up. For this reason, and that the latest information given to the board, which the board asked the public to provide input, wasn't published. And until you receive and review reliable and verifiable data about approving attendance line between Chapin and Lake Murray Elementary, I ask that you consider deferring it. I believe that approving an attendance line now between Lake Murray and Chapin before you have that accurate information will set you up for a new school and likely result in rezoning the same families over again. The math doesn't add up from one presentation to the next and from one scenario to another. The enrollment for the 3 elementary schools in Chapin, Piney Woods is the new one, under scenario 5, the total enrollment is 1,924 students. Scenario 1 is 1,913. Scenario 6 is 1,910. We may not be talking about a whole lot of kids, but the numbers are supposed to be the same. The total enrollment for the 3 schools, when divided up, is greater than they were 2 schools. That doesn't make any sense. There's so much more like this, and errors abound. And I'm really sorry to have to bring this to you. I know you've got a lot on your plate and you're anxious to put this behind you, but please consider holding off until you can get some really good information. The Pineywood Elementary School line, that seems to be a reasonable line. It seems to be a logical line because of the location of the school. But in any event, thank you very much for your service. I know it's difficult. You're much appreciated.
Thank you. Is it Danny Cabez?
My name is Danny Cabot, and I'm a sophomore at Spring Hill High School. I attend face-to-face learning because it's more of an education style that benefits me more than virtual. In October, when we tried to switch from hybrid to 4 days, I created a petition against this action. And for months, I've emailed Superintendent Melton about my fear and anxiety about reentry phases. Right now, on January 25th, 2021, out of my entire friend group at Spring Hill High School, I'm the only one left standing right now because all my friends are in quarantine because they've been exposed to COVID. I don't feel safe at my school because unlike this board meeting, which is spread out with masks up, we're crammed into small classrooms, not even 3 feet apart from each other, with kids who do not want to wear their masks, and teachers who are too scared to tell their kids, these kids, to put up their masks because this virus has been so heavily politicized. I should not be worried about going to school every day, and I'm furious with the choices that the school board makes for its students. Because of this meeting just proves that you care for yourself and the board's safety, but not us. The government buildings in the state are shut down with no visitors. The hospitals right now, no visitors. But for us, the students, we're to be forced in a building 5 days a week. I would like to say that if things are not made safer for the student body, we will be striking on the Wednesdays that are supposed to be virtual. We're not afraid of the consequences that you will give us if we strike, but what we are afraid of are the consequences that you will give us if you send this district back 5 days a week in the midst of a pandemic. Thank you for your time.
Josh Gray. Josh Gray.
Ready now? So my name is Josh Gray. I think many of you have heard from me virtually. My understanding is that face-to-face versus virtual is a bit of contention. So I thought maybe I would come here face-to-face to show some homage to that. I'm coming here tonight as a community member, as an alumni of the school district. I grew up here. I'm wearing this stocking cap because it's the only thing I have that has Dutch fork on it, aside from my leather jacket, which I don't think I would fit into, frankly, at this point in time. I'm also a step-parent-to-be if that crazy woman doesn't change her mind and I can't track her down. So that's kind of how I fit into this picture. We do have 2 kids in the house that attend school here in District 5. As I thought about what I might say if I actually got the chance to speak to you tonight, a lot of it's already been covered by people that spoke before me. And how about my man in the back, the teacher? That was crazy. But a few things that I wanted to draw attention to. There were really maybe 2 or 3 points tonight that I wanted to cover. The first has been highlighted. I understand the board's had a vote for a 10% sort of metric. And again, that's not CDC guidance. I pulled the numbers today from CDC and DHEC. The actual numbers, the guidance for highest risk for school return is 200 emergent per 100K. Both of our counties are at 505. The case positive for the community for highest risk is 10%. We were recently around 20, and we're still above 10 right now. And the mitigation strategies were recommended to have 3 that can be followed nearly exactly. We can't do that. It's been covered. Look at this. We're 6 feet separated. For the safety inside of this room, for all of our safety, we know we can't do that in our schools. And so, at the same time, there are many of you, many of the people behind us and their friends who are concerned about not being able to go face to face, and they have legitimate points. They really do. And so I really want to reiterate the idea that we can do a hybrid program. I do it every day. I teach somewhere else, and I constantly have kids in my room and virtually, and I do this, and I have for the last year, and I've been very successful with it. Another thing that I want to address that I've heard many times stated by not only members of the board, but some of my community members, is that like we all have our own science. And with respect, we're here in a school around education. The scientific method, which is the heart of basically all science classes I took since 9th grade, is built around discriminating good science from bad. So I'd ask you to be very careful with that statement. I've got 30 seconds, I'm right on it. And so I would ask you to be careful with those statements. We do have ways to discriminate good science from bad. And I urge you to use peer-reviewed and scientific consensus when you're making the decisions around these. And I know it's hard for y'all, but I ask that you really be careful of those sources. And in the last 10 seconds, I may go 5 over, but I'm just jealous that way. I ask when you're looking at this policy for policy BDE, never mind the particular dynamics of this board and this superintendent. Think about the dynamics of the precedent you're setting when you remove her position from the ability to be a participant in those committees. And thank you for your time. I'm sure I'll be in touch with you, whether you like it or not. I'm sure you'll hear from me soon.
Thank you. James Dennis. James Dennis. Is James here?
Good evening, all. I am James Wesley Dennis III, pastor of the Pine Grove AME Church here in the city of Columbia. And although I do not live in this district and I do not pastor a church in this district, I do have members who teach in this district and students who learn in this district, one of which is here tonight advocating on his fellow students. I had no intention to speak tonight. I guess I just walked in and started signing the first thing I saw. But Providence would have it that I would say something on behalf of the people that I am charged with taking care of spiritually. So let me attempt to talk to you on a moral sense. I understand what it means to be an administrator who have had to pivot. I understand what it means to have to think about alternatives to provide something that is such needed to people who come to your classrooms and come to the churches in my cases. And I understand the stress of this, but I hope that it is the intent of this board not to sacrifice what is right and doing it the right way for a sense of progression. And so let me just ask you to rethink this. It seems almost insane to have a student in an extra day in a classroom with all of this virus going on. I mean, I've sat here for 3 hours in the very back with a mask on, and every time someone coughed, I jumped. Right? I jumped because I was afraid. And to think about that fear with students who are trying to learn, isn't that but one more hurdle? One more hurdle that you have to teach through. And so let me compel you, think wisely and do not sacrifice doing what is right for the sake of progression. Listen, I pastor a church and we have resources, and so however we can assist you all and making these decisions or whatever we can do to kind of assist, please let us know. My email is pastorjames@pinegroveame.church, and I would love to assist in however or whatever we can do to help this decision be favorable for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our public participation, and we will go to action agenda. And do I have a motion for action as necessary?
Ms. Hammond, could we possibly have like 5 minutes? I know
Oh,
it's
you mean a
running
little
late.
break?
Please.
Sure.
I
second that motion.
Is there a second to that motion? It has been a long night. I really appreciate all of you guys that stayed to speak. We appreciate that and your time. All right. 5 minutes. Maybe I gotta get.